Hey friends, welcome back. We're going to do some wreath making today, and I am actually pretty busy still in the landscaping arena, and so I need shortcuts. I need life hacks because I want my home to be lovely and inviting, but I also need it to be easy. So it's like, how do we create this balance of handmade and warm and lovely, yet still easy? Well, I'm going to show you one of my favorite things that I do every year, and it is literally using a COSTCO Wreath. So this is the 28-inch COSTCO Wreath, and I love to pick mine up every single year. They're super reasonable. Oh yeah, and they were like $20. And so what I love about it is when you do a wreath like this from Costco, it's actually quite large, and it's going to fill most of my front door. If you've watched one of my earlier videos where I was cleaning up the garden, you'll know that I had a bunch of eucalyptus that I saved from my back pots. Well, what I have done in years past, and I'm going to redo it again this year, is I'm going to turn this kind of generic Costco wreath, instead of just slapping this on my front door, I'm actually going to transform this into kind of some textural, just like a textural treat. I will pop up on the screen my inspirational images, and this is actually something I do every year. I kind of take a look at like, what am I drawn to? And for this year, it's textural. It's a lot of different shades of green. It's movement. It's maybe like a little bit messy and a little unexpected. One of the inspiration images that I was drawn to kind of like time and time again was this concept of something hanging into the middle of my wreath. And that is where these sweet little bells come in. They came in a pack of 2. What I love about these is I can use them in the wreath this year, and then I can repurpose them in years going forward. And what is also really fun is on the inside, what I think is kind of unexpected is it's black. And then the little piece that makes, I don't know, what do you call this little piece that dingle dangles inside? But it's wood. And so with me going in this really organic direction, bringing in a lot of like foraged found items, suddenly it ties it all together. So let's go through what I have foraged and what I'm going to be playing with for my front porch, because I do want it to feel very, very collected. So we've talked about the COSTCO wreath. We also have talked about my eucalyptus, which is so gorgeous. But to give a little added depth, a little added dimension, I went to actually Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's is awesome. If you have one in your area, it is a treasure trove. And what I will often do is I will pick up 2 different bundles. Each one of these bundles of eucalyptus were $3.99. And so what I did is I picked up one that had a thinner leaf. So it's kind of like, do you see how I'm contrasting these? I've got the super roundness of the one that I grew. I've got this long kind of almost, it reminds me of an olive branch a little bit, with this like long, super thin leaf. And then I picked up this kind of silver dollar eucalyptus because I thought it had such interesting movement to it. And also it has a little touch of red going through the stem, which is really, really fun. Next, I was over at a friend's house yesterday, and of course we've been having giant windstorms, and I was in their driveway. We were going to go inside, and I was like, can I steal some of these fallen branches? And they're like, yes, please take all of them. And what I loved is, check this out. We have these beautiful branches with all of the cones still attached. And I think this is a much more organic look than the little trio that it naturally comes with. Last but not least, I went to Michael's and I picked up 2 things. The first is something that Brian is making fun of me endlessly for. He's like, I can't believe you purchased birch twigs when we have 8,000 in our front yard. And that is totally true. However, these have been sprayed with glitter, and it's like this soft, crystally glitter. It's nothing too in your face. I also thought I could do regular twigs in here, but there was something about this gentle, I don't know, I feel like glitter gives a metallic glow to whatever we're working with. So you can go one of 2 ways. You can actually just take branches from your own garden and stick them in this kind of like wild organic wreath that we're going to be doing. Or you can go with something that has a subtle glitter to it. The reason I chose something with a subtle glitter is I'm bringing in this metallic bell, and I felt like I needed one more element that shone. had a little bit of a sheen to it to play with the light. So, oh, and then last but not least, I have this. Okay, this was a Michael's purchase. Also, for those of you who love a coupon, they're always doing a sale. And this is a faux amaranth. And what I love about this is, do you see how we are all of a sudden building this incredible texture of greens? We're varying up our shades of green. I just thought this added so much whimsy and movement. And I was also thinking, you know, these leaves are kind of like not my jam at all. However, look at this. I have basically 6 pendulous, kind of like drooping bells of amaranth, and I can actually cut them right here at this juncture, and I'm gonna break these up and do a little bit of wire wrapped around the stem to use kind of throughout this arrangement, because I think it's just gonna add to the overall whimsy of it. All right, I think in terms of tools, a paddle wire, like these little paddles of florist wire, I've used these a lot. They usually come in like 22 gauge and 26 gauge. I'm using a 26 gauge, which is the thinner of the two. And let's see here. Oh, my snips. And these Felcos, these are my new Felco 14s. There is a little tiny notch right in the middle here, and that is what I'm using to cut these. So with using the smaller gauge wire, it's not gonna mess up my blade. Okay, well, let's dive in. And step number 1 is actually to deconstruct some of the elements that I don't like. So in years past, these little trio of pine cones have always been applied kind of after the fact. However, I wonder if they incorporated it into the wrapping, because I was noticing this wreath is structured a little bit different this year. So first things first, I'm getting rid of these red berries. You guys, this is just not my jam this year. This is not the program. Off they go. And by the way, I have actually had years where I have just like gone for broke with all of those red berries, and it's super fun. When I'm coming in here, typically when people construct a wreath, they never like detach the wire until it's done. So they come in here and they wrap bundle after bundle after bundle. So when it comes to these little red berries, this is why I'm not actually cutting any of the wire that holds it in place. Oh, look at that, see? It was just looped here together as a little bundle. So that goes out, and I'm gonna stick my cedar back in. All right, you guys, next, moment of truth, my pine cone situation. You know, I may leave them. I'm nervous right now just looking at it. Yeah, they wired these dang things in here. So what they've done is they've wrapped the wire around and around as opposed to wrapping them individually. Okay, the next step, now that we have all of our red berries out, I'm gonna go ahead and leave my pine cones in because I did discover they were wrapped into the wreath and I don't wanna bust apart the whole thing, is I'm gonna come in with my eucalyptus. So the eucalyptus, I have basically 3 different varieties. And so what I'm gonna do is I think I'm actually gonna create bundles of all 3. So for example, right here, I'm going to use 2 sprigs of what I grew, which is like so fun. And then I think I'm going to bust in with some of this gorgeousness. All right, so we've got the bigger stuff kind of in the back, the littler stuff, that finer leaf, and then I'm going to do a little like round leaf sandwich. So I've got my round leaf in the back, smaller leaf in the front, and then I'm going to come down here. And what's kind of cool, what I want to do is I want to actually shorten this. So what I might do is I might come in here and almost treat it like I'm pruning a tree. I'm going to take off these ones that are not really doing anything. I'm going to lay that one down. And then do you see how my cut is nestled in right there? So it visually isn't disruptive. And then I've got this little cutie here. I'm taking away the bottom stem or the bottom leaves. So I'm left with a nice clean stem. Actually, I'm going to do that on these ones as well. And then now we've got our little bundle, our little trio of goodies here. I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take a little piece of wire, just snip it like that. And then you can kind of see I've got all my little goodies here. It's almost like I'm making a flower bouquet. I'm just gonna kind of squeeze them together a bit for some sturdiness. I'm gonna take my little wire and I kind of hold it tight with my thumb, and then I give it a little wrap around. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when you're building a wreath, it's gonna be outside, it's not gonna be in water, and so your elements are going to shrink a little bit as they dry. So this is one of those things where this just gives it a little extra security. And there we go. Okay, so now that I have my little bundle here, I'm looking at my direction of my wreath, right? And you can see we're kind of going counterclockwise. So I don't want to put it like that because it's going to disrupt the flow and we're going to look like chaos. I want to go like this. And also, the reason I'm going with the direction of the wreath is because I can lift it. This is like one of those lift the flat books. Like, it's so cute and exciting. Like, you just lift it up and you find a little spot. And you tuck it in. And if we want to get in like real close, so as I lift the flap here, I am looking for the next point that I can tuck this stuff in. And that's going to be right here. So I'm not going to lay my eucalyptus on top because this is much shorter. Instead, what I'm going to do is I've got my little tails here, and I'm going to start tucking it way down into this wreath. And do you see how just like instantaneously this becomes like 10 times more full? And what you're also going to notice, do you see how I've angled this? Instead of angling it down, I'm angling it more out because I'm trying to create more fullness and a much greater dimension than what we have here. And so it's at this point that I can kind of just say like, okay, do I have these things down enough? Are we secure enough in here? And then what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to create like 4 or 5 more and continue it all the way around. Okay, let's get to it. Okay, cool. So friends, this is what 5 of these eucalyptus bundles looks like. We're good, but we're not quite there. What we're going to do next is we are going to fluff out this wreath and start adding in, this is like our base layer, and now we're adding in little touches. From here, we're going to take this and we're going to kind of start playing with the eucalyptus going in and out of our pine branches because we want this to be a cohesive look. The other thing that I really am enjoying about this particular wreath is these little cedar bundles, and I want to make sure that they are kind of like splayed out across as well. So I'm essentially, the long and the short of it is you need to fan out your eucalyptus like this, okay? And have some of your pine and your Doug fir kind of going in and out of these eucalyptus bundles. It just marries them all together. It makes it look like it's a singular arrangement as opposed to like, I don't know, like a checkerboard pattern or something. Okay, this is looking already way better. However, what you're going to notice is I do have this ebb and flow. I still have little chunks that are kind of lower moments, and this is where we're going to start coming in with our branches. So again, I purchased mine, but honestly, you could probably go get that glitter stuff and do this yourself. All right. All right, I've cut all of my branches in kind of an approximation of length. So some are a little bit smaller, some are a little bit longer, but they're all kind of in the same arena. And this is what we're going to add as more structure going around. And in fact, I might actually break this down more. This is where kind of the artistry comes in. There's no set pattern for any of this, but What I am going to tell you, actually, let me start over here. I'm essentially going to be weaving in and out these twigs. Some are going to go in between, like this, right? So some are going to go in between for a little added movement. Some of the smaller ones I may actually put in front of the eucalyptus. So do you see how going in front, in back, maybe a little in front, in back? This is actually creating a much more dynamic arrangement and like fullness in kind of like an unplanned way. And because I've cut all of these at different lengths, it's not like a samey vibe. We're not going for that. And again, we're kind of coming back in here and we're searching for those little areas where the wire was already twisted through. So we're not like, this is not heavy lifting. I'm not building this from scratch. This is cheap and dirty. We're using what was already prepared by Costco. Thank you, Costco. Ooh, that is really fun. Okay, and if it breaks, like literally no big deal. Break it off. You have a shorter one. It's more interesting. Oh, you know what? I actually might do this one a little bit differently. Okay, I'm going to stick this one back in, but I kind of thought, gosh, I can do this a little bit. See how like I can put them together and they kind of splay off in different directions? I kind of like that. Yee! Okay, that's looking good. Okay. And then this is where you kind of can take a gander at what you've got going on and where you might fit more. Like I feel like I might need something else here. This is feeling gorgeous, but I might, and instead of, here's another kind of like hint. Instead of me putting like another one in here, I'm going to put two together for more visual impact. You know, and as you go around, you might notice like, oh, I'm not really digging on that one. It's kind of coming out at a funky angle. Take it out, cut it, try again. So just like super forgiving. This is looking very good. We are almost at the point where I'm feeling really good and I can start positioning my bell in the middle. But what I'm going to do before I even go there is I have a lot more little tiny pieces. These are like the little offcuts. And do you see like right here? I might just stick a little one right in here. I'm not worried about creating a bundle. This one is just going to slip in between what is already existing. Have to kind of like work it in and find the hole. It's like creating a flower arrangement, really. And these are like the little bitty pieces that help it feel more alive and feel like it's less of like a rhythm and more of a cadence. I don't even know if that makes sense. Cute. And then these kind of long ones, which I feel like I might do a long one back in here. Yeah, that is so fantastic. Okay, let me grab a couple other long ones. Yeah, that is really cool. And I like that this one is kind of, I can almost twist it around the sticks over here. And so I've put some on the outside and now I'm going to come in and I'm going to tuck a few little cuties kind of coming towards the inside so that this inside feels really full too. And that is one thing that you kind of want to look for. Kind of, I mean, this is like gardening, creativity, the whole shebang is I never want samey, but I do like some balance. So fullness on the inside, fullness on the outside, all of my little things marrying together. See how there's like a big chunk here that is primarily pine or Doug fir rather. That's what I'm going to break up next. So I'm going to come in here with this like little piece and I might sneak it between elements. Yeah, just like that. See how that just like it breaks up that solid chunk? That's what we're going for. Like I could keep going on this all day long. So here's the other thing. I actually had bought this too. I don't think I even need it. Gosh, you know what? I think we're going to 86 it. But if you are going for more of a faux situation, or if you're doing this with like a faux wreath, adding some pieces that are like drapey and interesting, this might actually be a really good way to go. Okay, I'm going to, what I kind of want to do next is I want to lift this up and just take a peek at how we're looking here. Okay, so when I'm evaluating this wreath, I don't want it to be too like samey. I want equal fullness all the way around, and I do want it to feel like a bit haphazard. I think that's kind of cool. The next thing we're working on is the positioning of my bell, and I'm trying to decide where I want this to be. I can do it, you know, and part of me says I can hang it where I don't have a pine cone. That's one school of thought. So it would be like that, or I can hang it directly from a little pine cone situation. I think I might actually do that. And then I need to figure out, okay, do I like one, or do I like two, or do I like a teeny tiny? That feels disproportionate to me. That feels a little bit better. How do we feel about two? Crazy, Brian? Brian votes for two. So now, I think what I might do is I actually think I'm going to take these two bells. Actually, they're perfectly aligned here, like a little duo. And I actually like these little knobbly bits right there. Like this one is plain and this one has a little bit more of that detail. That feels a little bit more interesting to me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little piece of that florist wire. Just going to kind of do a little tie off there. And then I'm not going to tie it to the front. I am going to tie it to the back. So let me spin this over and you can see where I'm going to affix this. So we'll flip those guys over too. And then right back here, you can see the metal frame of this arrangement. And what's kind of cool, the reason I want to show you this is because next year, if I decide, gosh, I actually have a little bit more time on my hands, or maybe I want to do this with my kids, or maybe I want to host like, gosh, a wreath making party would be so fun with some of my girlfriends. But essentially, you're just going to feed your little wire through. And I'm going to do just a real loose kind of spin around here. And then I don't want to scratch my door. So I take my little ends and I tuck them in. And it's this point that I also assess, are there any kind of like when wreaths are mass produced, you end up with kind of like little pokey bits. And like I said, I don't want to scratch my front door. So I just tuck those in. And you can see this is where they've used the 22 gauge wire, which is a little bit thicker. And at the end of the season, if you want to save this frame for use next year, all you do is you snip these little wires across the back and you're in business. Oh my gosh, I might need to shorten this still even more. What do we think? Okay, unshortened, it's still a little bit long. I'm gonna shorten them up. That's super great. And literally all I've done is I've just looped it up because these bells are so light. And then I just gave them a little twist, tuck in my pokey bits. Okay, that is like way better. I may have made this giant, huge. Oh my God, I friggin' love it. Oh. This is so massive. Oh my God. This is so stinking cute. This is so cute. Okay. I may have gone too big, but I don't care. Here's the deal. It's my house. I do what I want. But it will make it a challenge to open the door. Oh, dang it. You know what we could do also? Okay, I'm having another thought. I could also, hey guys, this actually might be really good. Okay, Brian, how do you feel about nailing something into our siding? Look how cute that is there. Then we don't even have it on the door, and this gets to be like big and freaking gorgeous. I may have gone to Maximalist. I'm calling this my Maximalist Naturalist. But what's really great is like when you have a crazy organic wreath like this, I just simply cut off a few of those and I tucked them in a little bit lower. So now we can close the door. We've checked the swing. Over here, I can have it be a little bit bigger and more loose and it doesn't even really impact it. And then these, oh my gosh, these little golden bells are so cute. They're so cute. And then I was also thinking that if you wanted to kind of like tie the whole situation together with these twigs, I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put a few of them clustered in my front door container so they get a little bit of that texture and that sparkle too. Friends, thank you for coming along as we gave this COSTCO wreath a bit of a glow up. I'm actually going to be back again tomorrow. So Tuesday, I'm going to have a special announcement and I can't wait to share it with you all. It's been something I've actually been working on really, really hard for the past, 3 months, and it has finally come together. And I just feel overjoyed that I get to share it with you all. So I will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching, and say hello to your garden for me.